forward to talking to my favorite chef in the world, Michael Pataran.
Yes, he is very interesting. When I think about culinary tourism, it has to do with traveling to taste local cuisine or maybe even taking a cooking class. But when I look at Michael Pataran, he is someone who has traveled to immerse himself in techniques like a martial artist studying someone studying to become a Zen master. He's always seeking that next level or breadth of knowledge like no other chef I'm aware of. Whether it's becoming a sommelier or a sake master, training in Italy or the Philippines, Mexico, Croatia, Hong Kong, and all the while learning, running kitchens in the Bahamas or the Maldives. He is like an international man of mystery. And with his refined palette, he's like, it's like an artist's paint palette that enables him an inimitable versatility and finesse that is confirmed by a mile-long list of accolades. To me, he is a culinary Jedi who I first met at a sake competition in Toronto, but right now he is speaking to us from Phnom Penh in Cambodia. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Michael. Nice to see you.
See you both. Awesome to see you both. I also have some sake here, so I'm gonna give you a little cheers. Well, I'm drinking. This is the Kikasui Fanaguchi Namagenshu from Niigata. So it's a whopping 19% alcohol by volume. But anyways, kampai to you both. Great to see you. Thank you for all those lovely words, Adam. I don't think my head is going to fit in this room anymore after this, but
that's the idea.
It's deeply
Michael,
appreciated.
I first enjoyed your cooking at Wildfire at the Taboo Resort outside of Toronto, and you started a brave new concept of theater. And I was there with the media group, and I said to my colleagues, this chef is an artist, not merely a chef with good technique. Since then, you've worked at so many other restaurants, and you have been honored with every existing award that there is, from newspapers, magazines, Condé Nast, Zagat Guide. In fact, in 2003, I gave you an award for the best Asian cuisine of the year.
Yes, you did. I remember that.
So over 30 different awards, Michael. Whatever you touched received an award. What chef reaches such heights? What drives you?
Food drives me. Just the passion for knowledge and authenticity and truthfulness in food. The process is what really drives me, and it's what I try to instill in all my cooks, is to just be true to the craft. It's the craft that you have to be true to at the end of the day. And that's, I think, at the end of the day, what's kept me on the rails and keeps me going in the right direction. And just the fact of learning. It's like a martial artist. It's like, even though you get your black belt or whatever, you're always learning. It doesn't really matter. You never stop learning. It's just, it's the entry level. And it's like another very good friend of mine, John Zabo, who I was just watching a podcast with him yesterday. When he said the same thing, when he got his master sommelier certification, it's like, that's just now you're beginning. And everything after that is just continues and continues, because at the end of our lifetime in this industry and with cuisine, no matter how much we learn and know, it's probably enough to fit in our pinky fingernail. And the rest of the body is unknown. It's like space. So you just try to just keep going forward and learning and being the best that you can, and just continuing to do so and passing that along. I think that's the most important thing.
One of the standout features of Wildfire at Taboo was your theater and your faith menus. That's so far ahead of its time. And you provided a holistic and multi-dimensional experience. How did that concept come to you?
I got the word faith from, it was actually a New Order song, if you remember True Faith. I don't know if you remember going back to the 80s. But I came up with the concept of faith and not giving people a choice, because a lot of There were some tasting menus at that time, but they were more sampling menus because a lot of chefs took their regular a la carte menu and they would pull 6 or 7 dishes and they would offer that as a tasting. So to me, I thought that was a cop-out. For me, a tasting menu had to be something really special and be off the menu. It couldn't be a dish that was on the menu. So still to this day, when I do a tasting menu, it's nothing I would ever have on an a la carte menu. It's something completely different. It's either an ingredient that's very limited or very hard to get, or very small window of a season, or something that you can't come across to put it on a regular menu where you need to have it every single day. But I think that's the concept of letting people and guiding them through a journey, as opposed to saying, you know, okay, I want this, I want that, I want that, or, you know, you're going to get a sample of the menu. It's theater. Like it really is. When you go out to dine at night, and I found out that people make decisions all day long. They've had long, hard days. Their business job, they're making decisions. With their family, they're making decisions. So when they come into a restaurant, they're kind of handing themselves over to you. They don't want to make they don't want to make a choice. They just want something that's different and something that's really good. So when you get adventurous diners, that's your ticket. That's what you're looking for as a chef. You know, recently I was at Clayoquot Wilderness Resort on Vancouver Island. And our bar, we had 12 seats, was our tasting. You had to have a tasting menu, 7, 9, or 11 course to sit at the bar. And we changed this menu every single night. Whether you had 11 courses, we had a couple people that came in. We had this one couple that came in from New York, and they had 3 9-course tastings every single night that they were there. And we had to come up with 9 different courses every single night for these people. And I remember them even saying, because they used to dine at, you know, they used to go to Blue Hill and everything all the time, and they loved going out and eating tasting menus. And they said, it's shocking that you're doing 9 different courses every single night. But this is what I think a tasting menu is. I think you have to do that. Otherwise, I just don't think it's a true tasting menu in giving that guest the ultimate experience.
I want to try to connect the dots. You studied criminology in university.
Yeah.
Was there a delicious crime scene? How did you get from there to here?
I loved true crime growing up, and I loved criminology. I loved serial killers and forensic psychology.
Stories of serial killers.
Yeah. Stories of serial killers, not actually themselves, but I love the concept. I love the psychology of it. I grew up in the restaurant business, so I was always in the restaurant scene. Since I was a little kid, my parents owned restaurants and clubs, so I was kind of dragged into it, not kicking and screaming, but brought into it. But criminology was more of a passion, and I loved it. But oddly enough, and I told this, I think, to Amy Pataki once, I said that I did learn about the process of a body and how it goes through the stages of death. Algor mortis, liver mortis, and rigor mortis, time, temperature, and stiffness of death. Because when you use an animal, for example, if you kill a fish, you have to wait until it passes through all these stages of death before you can cook it. You know, you can't cook a fish in rigor mortis. It just, the lactic acid is still trapped in the cells. So it creates a very mushy piece of flesh, which is why you bleed out animals and hang them. You have to go through this process. So there is things that I actually learned from that, oddly enough, which I did apply and learn the science of biology and how it affects bodies. But, you know, I always loved cooking since I was a little kid. My grandparents were great cooks, both of them. So that was my first introduction.
I had no idea what your answer was going to be, but that was the best answer.
Yeah, she liked it too. She thought it was a really good answer too.
Yeah.
You know, the scientific side of it, which is the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've traveled the world and you've worked in exotic destinations that exist as travelers' dreams, private islands in Italy to the Caribbean. Some people could think that you can't hold a job, Michael. But I believe that an artist like you must change every few years to learn new concepts and to build on what you already have. You can't just stop and say, okay, I know everything I need to know. So
yeah,
you're living the dream of every chef.
Some days, yes. You know, you can't, there's only so much you can learn in a book. You can't learn culture from a book. You can't learn those little ins and outs in a book. You have to travel. You have to see culture. You have to experience people. People are what brings it all together. Food brings people together. So when you travel, you really get to see it firsthand. You get those experiences that you could never get anywhere else. And I've just always loved to travel, and to stay in one place for a very long time. And I know there's chefs that do it. They've been in a place for 15, 20 years. That to me is just not attractive, because I feel like I'm missing out. Like, there's so much of the world to see in so little time in terms that we can do it. And in our business, and my business as a chef, it's one of those jobs. It's very adaptable. You can travel the world because cooking is cooking. Fire is fire. Heat is heat. And you learn about all these new ingredients, and you meet these people that tell you the stories of, their mothers and their grandmothers. Like, for instance, where I am now, in Cambodia, I've met so many amazing kids, and, a lot of them grew up with their parents that were, in the Khmer Rouge, that were from that time. And they talk about cooking and their grandmothers, and a lot of them have lost uncles and aunts and grandparents to this, but they still hold a lot of that stuff that they were taught, even recipes. And that's the really human aspect of it. That's the greatest part, I think, about traveling and working in so many different and amazing countries.
And so are you informed by those recipes, and do you incorporate them?
Yeah, sure. There's, a lot of, like, I just spent 2 years in Indonesia, and
yeah,
I learned a ton of great recipes there. And before, in the Bahamas even, and when I traveled to Mexico, and, you pick all this stuff up and you kind of bring it with you. And some of it you adapt to your own style. You make a little bit of changes here and there. But at the end of the day, I think that's what kind of gives you your basis and your foundation as a chef, and your building blocks that you build upon.
Well, also as an artist, there's, Martha Graham, the great dancer and teacher, once said that within every artist, there is a divine dissatisfaction, that you can't just do one thing and say, okay, I'm good with this for the rest of my life. There has to be something to compel you in your art to keep growing, keep exploring and discovering. So I have a two-parter here.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, all your experiences represent a kind of cooking school, but did you go to cooking school?
I went to cooking school in Australia back in 1990, 91 when I was there. It was a shorter program, but I've basically grown up, like I said, in this business, and I've learned from so many amazing chefs when I was young. I had a Croatian guy that was just fantastic named Gregorio, and another Italian signora that I learned from, Anna Pavia from Naples. And, I've met a ton of chefs that have gone to cooking school, and they've gone through all kinds of programs, and, they're not necessarily the best chefs. And I've met chefs that have had no schooling at all whatsoever. They've just learned through the hard working in kitchens and doing that way. I think it's in you. Either you have it or you don't. I don't think
yeah.
You can learn the basis, and that's anything. Like, I don't care if you're playing hockey or if you're a carpenter or whatever. If you have that gift, and I think you have that drive and determination and passion, and it's inside you, that's where it comes from.
I once did a study on children's scribbles, and what I discovered was that every child is a Dali or Picasso, and then they learn geometry and perspective and where the sun is supposed to be, and the people are here, and this is where the house is, and so something is lost. So if you can not necessarily resist, but sort of maintain that artful presence in your life as an outlet or an inlet, it's quite special. And with you seem to have traveled to places that were not in vogue when you went there. Now everybody's going everywhere, but I mean, you were traveling and learning and cooking in Serbia or Portugal or Indonesia, as you said, rather than staging at a restaurant in New York, London, or Paris. And I'm wondering why you chose, or how you came to choose those places.
I've always liked the unbeaten path at the end of the day. I'm not a fan of crowds or going where all the crowds are going to. That's never led me. I like to go where I like to go and where I want to go, where I think I can learn more. I just spent a month in Japan last May, and we spent most of the time in smaller prefectures and in the rural parts, like you were speaking earlier, Ibaraki and Fukushima and Niigata and Sado Island and all those kind of places. Same with Mexico. Same when I went to Mexico, I spent a lot of time in Oaxaca and the Yucatan. I just like those. I think that's where the real stories come from. Those smaller places and those villages. It's like when I came here, when I came to Cambodia, I came to work at Songsa, which is a small little island off the coast of Cambodia in the Gulf of Thailand, and on the island right near the island of Koh Rong.
What brought you there? Why Cambodia?
A phone call, basically, from a past GM that I worked with in the Bahamas. He was at a different resort. I was at Albany in the Bahamas, and he was at Old Fort Bay. And he basically called me. I was in Toronto, just coming back from the Bahamas, wasn't happy in Toronto. And I got a phone call and basically just decided to pick up and leave, and did that in June of 2015. I was here in Cambodia, and I've basically been here ever since. It's been my home base from that time. I've left. I've worked in Sicily. I've gone to Vancouver Island for 2 seasons, Maldives, Indonesia, but here has always been my base.
Well, I'm just thrilled to see that you've opened up your own restaurant.
Yeah.
Indigo Wellness.
Yeah, spa and eatery.
And eatery.
Yeah.
Do you speak the language? What is the language in Cambodia?
Khmer is the language. Speak Khmer.
What is it like?
It's a very tricky language. I speak very little. It's a lot of consonants. So it's not the easiest language to learn, and you have to really apply yourself. I've worked in places where there's been a lot of English-speaking people as well, like the staff have spoken English. So I've learned words and phrases, but not as much, in all honesty, as I probably should have. Also, the fact that I've been in and out of the country a lot. I haven't been consistently here. So I've been in Indonesia and other places as well, and Maldives. So I've always been kind of going back and forth. So I haven't been applied as I should have.
Well, I would say your language is one of food, and your menu. I have to say this. I read a few items on your menu: zucchini noodles with an almond pesto, taro root and purple sweet potato gnocchi in a spicy coconut Sarawak laksa with toasted cashew parmigiano. You have dishes that are Japanese, Indonesian, Cuban, Californian, a cauliflower steak with dukkha, pomegranate, pumpkin, and sunflower seeds. You could make a vegan out of me.
Yeah, we have a lot of vegan healthy dishes. And this leading to one thing, I've never liked the word fusion. I've always called it the F word, because I think it's just been thrown out there too easily. I understand the history of fusion and where it came from, but when people say fusion, I typically don't do fusion. If I do a Thai dish, it's Thai. If I do a Vietnamese dish, it's Vietnamese. I won't really fuse flavors, and if I do, I'm very careful about it, and I make sure that it kind of fits in all the places that it needs to fit. You see a lot of younger chefs now, and they're doing a lot of these fusion items where they're mixing stuff together. And for me, it doesn't necessarily work. I just think it's more for flash and more for the look. But I think when it comes down to it, it has to fit. It's got to go together and make sense on the plate and on the palate. I think that's the most important thing.
Well, Mom, you get the last one, because I see our time. We're just inching over the line.
Just tell us what you're doing now and what you've got cooking for the future.
Well, this is the restaurant here. So we're sitting in Indigo. It's a 22-seat restaurant. It's not a large restaurant. We're on a main street in Cambodia, on Street 240. So we have a whole line of sauces and condiments that we've launched that's doing quite well. And I also have my own beer coming out with a microbrewery here. Yeah, called Botanico. Marco, who's the brewmaster from Germany, we came up with a a beer that we did. I basically came up with the recipe. So it's soba oba aka ale. So it's buckwheat shiso red Japanese ale. And we launched it first as a draft. He did small production just to make sure, that it worked out okay. We were both over the moon with the results, and he had a lot of other Japanese restaurants asking for the beer. So we're going to put it in the bottle. It's going to have my face on the bottle with my signature and everything. So it's kind of cool. So we're launching that. The spa is the top 2 floors of the spa of the building. So my wife owns that, and she's had that for 9 years. And the restaurant we just opened in September after I got back from Indonesia. So, it's going well. Cambodia is still recovering from a COVID hangover, which is really odd because we didn't really experience COVID at all. I think we had a 2-week, 10-day lockdown, and that was it. Where, like Toronto, I think it was like 18 months. It was crazy. But it's starting to come out of it. But there's also a ton of restaurants that are opening up. The Japanese market here is huge. So there's all these type of omakase restaurants are popping up. It seems like there's one a week opening with all these multi-course menus with, there's ones that just specially do Wagyu, and there's ones that specialize in seafood. So it's a very growing and bustling market, but we're still pushing ahead and going forward. We do all these great dinner series. We have a Japanese dinner actually coming up at the end of the month at February 1st with Jay Scaife. I know you probably remember.
I remember Jay.
Yeah, so Jay's here now. He's working in another restaurant here. So we have a dinner here on February 1st, doing 7 courses with flights as well. So we tend to just keep doing stuff like that, keep busy. I remember, Adam, you were talking about, trends coming up, and Sara, and talking about, I think, interactive cuisine is something that's going to be very big for the future, getting the clients, the guests more involved.
Experience.
Yes.
But that's what you said, Adam. Experience.
Sensory perceptions, and, getting all these flavors and becoming a little bit more part of getting involved in the actual meal. Like, it's experience. People want to go out because they want experience at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I would come to Cambodia just to dine at your restaurant and see you. And
it would be great to see you both. I was lucky to be Sarah's date last time I was in Toronto. We went to the opening of that Italian restaurant on Carlton.
Janico, and they offered you a job.
Yeah, I know, which was pretty awesome. But it's so great to see you both again. Thank you for this. This has been an awesome way to start my Monday morning.
All right. Well, have a great Monday.
Thank you so much, both of you. And I hope to see you again soon.
Hope so. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Big kiss.